I look like a cheerleader, don't I? HWESIM. Y'all, I ain't no cheerleader. How did it used to go? Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. As I'm sure you guys can tell by the title of the video, I'm going to be talking about a topic that is very personal for me but relatable for all. That is anxiety. First things first, so I wanted to address the stigma behind mental health disorders and their relativity to traditional holidays like Halloween. Personally, Halloween is one of my favorites to celebrate. For one whole month, you are allowed to step outside the usual character, dress up in grotesque costumes, visit haunted houses, carve pumpkins, eat a bunch of candy, binge watch horror films, and so on and so forth. Whatever else y'all like to do during Halloween. But many of those non-traditional practices are actually quite offensive and depict an inaccurate narrative of what life is actually like for a person coping with a mental health diagnosis. For example, many costumes, film, and attraction like haunted houses and escape rooms feature asylum-like themes that perpetuate stereotypes of people coping with mental health diagnoses as scary, which actually just intensifies the level of prejudice and discernment people have when deciding whether or not they are going to seek treatment or offer help. I'm here to tell you, we all of us, all of us, y'all, everybody, every last one of y'all, we all have experienced a life event, whether we know it now or not, that without the proper resources or coping skills has had the ability to affect our mental health. And COVID-19 is actually a very great example. COVID-19 caused anxiety for us all, as many people lost jobs or furloughed, or they had their hours reduced. For many people, this meant sacrificing benefits, loss of funds, or some people had the inability to pay bills. And don't get me wrong, that is not even the complete extent at which people have suffered during this pandemic. But similar to most other warriors out there was the feeling of uncertainty. Such feelings like uncertainty and danger can lead to fear. And fear is an emotional response caused by one's perception of danger that can trigger a fight or flight response. Many people who suffer with anxiety, diagnosed or undiagnosed, are likely to avoid situations that provoke fear. Personally, I have the fear of failure. So in an effort to avoid that, in the past, I have completely negated the physical needs of my body, like sleep, to devote the time needed to prepare for success. And y'all, it's actually funny because as I was preparing the content for this video, I actually saw a post on Instagram that said, my therapist said something in our last session that I can't get out of my head. Black women don't often recognize that they're struggling with depression or anxiety. Instead, they think they are failing. I felt that. And I think there's a lot of other people out there that feel that too. In 2017, as I went through nursing school, I was completely aware of the rigorous nature of my program. I began to experience panic attacks. For me, those were led by restlessness, constant tapping of my feet, pacing, continuous tension, headaches, a racing heart, and shortness of breath. A lot of times I just felt like I couldn't catch my breath. And yes, I tried deep breathing. Other times I also experienced somatic symptoms like physical aches and pains. I think at one point I had hip pain. I was still trying to work out, so I think I thought I injured something. I don't know, but I remember calling my mom and she was like,
calm down. Calm down. You're anxious again. You're panicking. You're okay. These are not real.
One night when I actually did try to go to sleep, I closed my eyes, and the second I closed my eyes, I jumped out of bed because I felt like I had taken my last breath when I closed my eyes. I could not breathe. I could not lay down. That was just it. I couldn't lay down. So I hopped out of bed, and that was my very first experience with panic attacks. Prior to this though, I was healthy and I thought I had complete control over my stressors. My stressors at the time were, to be honest, I didn't even recognize my stressors. I thought the reason why I thought I had complete control is because I didn't think I had no issues. Like, I thought I was okay. I was just in school. I still lived at home with my mom, But fast forward to this year, I was reflecting and I noticed that I still experience some degree of anxiety. However, the presentation is different. Before, I was able to keep going, stay active, and essentially distract myself up until it came time for me to rest. This year, I didn't have the same luxury because after COVID hit, I had a lot more downtime considering many places were closed or had revised hours. And with the encouraged social distancing, I spent a lot more time alone with my thoughts and confined to my apartment. I experienced a lot of irritability, lack of concentration, and increasing thoughts. Initially, I was confused. I didn't even consider those as symptoms of anxiety, which is why I find it important to note a few things, because there are other people out there. I'm sure I'm not the only person who thought that they were completely fine, didn't have any issues, never experienced any type of mental health problems. But like I said, in reality, if not ever before, I'm sure it presented itself more in people this year with the pandemic, and you may not have noticed it. So the first noteworthy thing to mention is anxiety presentation is not always the same and triggers vary. So like I said, in 2017, I had a lot more physical ailments. I had headaches, I had the racing heart, I was restless, like I had the foot tapping, I was pacing, I couldn't sit down. This year, I didn't have that. I had more of the increased thoughts and mood swings and irritability and things of that nature. So it's important to note that even if you did experience anxiety before, your anxiety symptoms may not always be the same. So it's important that you recognize different symptoms so that you can get them under control. That leads me to my next point. It's important for you to pay attention to your stressors and make efforts to control what you can and what you cannot, learn to let go. My next point, failure to address these issues can lead to worsening symptoms. You cannot be like me and choose to ignore them because you're strong. Like, you can't. Anxiety, when uncontrolled, can qualify as a serious mental illness. No one diagnosis is above the other. Anxiety, though there are different qualifications to meet that specific diagnosis, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, mood disorder, they all fall under one umbrella. Like, regardless of how you try to put it, how you try to make it sound to the next person, they all fall under the same umbrella. There is a medication that you can take for each different one. So another thing to note is that the most quote-unquote normal looking people, aka the strong friend, experience anxiety too. You don't always have to be strong. Like, there are points of weakness in all of our lives regardless of who sees it or not. The last point I wanted to make is that therapy is for everyone. Everybody. You get a therapist, you get a therapist, you get a therapist. Everybody gets a therapist. If you can, it is important to see somebody. You don't have to go in and know what you want to talk about whenever you see a therapist. Sometimes therapy is preventative and proactive. You don't have to show up when you have a problem. You don't have to wait until you start experiencing panic attacks to see a therapist. You can see a therapist whenever. Sometimes therapy can help unpack a lot of things that you didn't even know were affecting you or were causing some of your worries and concerns. But as I said, therapy is for everyone. Anyway, y'all, happy Halloween. We out.